Welcome, fellow travelers. I'm Burns, and I'm joining Chibi and Vertec at the Golden Feather. Come on in, grab a seat, and let's share tales of adventure.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Golden Feather Tavern, where your hosts, Chibi and Vertec, discuss Ashes of Creation and important topics spoken about within the Ashes community. Every week, we invite you, the viewer, and a special guest to pull up a chair, grab a pint, and join the conversation with us. Today is the 1st of March, 2025, and we are on episode 231, Coping with Ashes. And our guest today, given the legendary eye roll there, is Doc Burns with Copium Clinic. And how are you today, friend?
Dude, I'm great. Just happy to be on an establishment. I mean, you guys are pillars of the Ashes community. I think my first ever appearance on anything other than my channel was on the Golden Feather. And you guys have been at this for forever. I've watched, I want to say, I'm well over 50%. I haven't watched all your stuff, but I've watched a heck of a lot of Golden Feather hours. So as we were saying in the pre-show, it's fun to talk with you guys because I have this parasocial relationship with you.
I feel very much the same.
Okay. And honestly, watching any more than just the one episode you're on is an absolute grand accomplishment, and we thank you for it. We thank you for it.
Yes.
But the other half of this establishment, as you say, is Chibi over here. How are you today, Chibi? And what do we have on tap today?
Doing pretty good. We have some funky things going on with our artificers equipment, so we'll be trying to figure that out.
It is
the
so
arcane
crazy
engineers
right now.
Equipment. But today we're going to be discussing a lot of things that we were listening to yesterday with the dev live stream that happened for February, as we are now in March. And we're going to be kind of getting your thoughts, sharing ours, and especially understanding Burns' thoughts from the Copium Clinic. Which, speaking of, I last had you on, and I say I because Vertec wasn't able to join you.
He ditched out. He ditched out.
I did.
Yeah,
I was hiding.
So for those that maybe saw some of your old stuff, or like as I'm about to share your information here, you were used to be known as Ashes of Relation. So what inspired the change to the Copium Clinic?
Yeah, I didn't. Ashes of Relation was a kind of just a quick thought. I was like, man, I had a bunch of things that I really wanted to make videos about, and I had videos done, and I didn't have a title for the channel yet. And so I usually, as you can see with my channel, I like to think about things, and I don't rush. I mean, I'll get out 2 videos a month sometimes, and so I like to be fairly deliberate with stuff. But the problem was nothing good was coming with the name, and so I was like, all right. I mean, hey, I think this game is going to be so good, it's going to screw up a bunch of relationships. So Ashes of Relation, fine, whatever.
There's one way to look at it, and probably accurate, to be honest. Just looking at the way these servers are going right now, come live when things are actually for keeps. Oof.
Yeah,
for sure. And we've already seen, a bunch of people with you guys are on Lineth, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so seeing some of the vitriol on I'm on Vira, but I'll probably make a character on Lineth sometime coming up. But there's a lot of relationships that I think people were friends before, and maybe not as much now, which has been interesting to see. But then as I was doing it, I was like, okay, one of my so there's the Bespoke series, which you guys, Vertec was on the first season. Fantastic guest. You were one of the first people, I think, to even say yes. I messaged a bunch of people, and you were just like, yes, done. Yes, there.
I'm in. I'm in.
So really appreciate that. And then Chibi was season 2, fantastic as well. But anyway, so the bespoke series, but then the Copium Clinic ended up being one of my playlists, and so I was like, I'm okay with that name, and then eventually I was like, well, let's just make that the channel then, and yeah,
that makes sense. I like it.
Too strongly about it one way or the other. I thought that, you know, changing names at some point would be fine, and yeah, it's I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I love that. And Miss Snuggle says, "Ooh, my 3 favorite Ashes creators."
Oh, thank you, Miss Snuggles. That's a big compliment.
I agree.
Absolutely, so many people out there. I'll happily take one of the top 3.
I agree. I was actually telling Burns before this, there's a lot of videos that are evergreen that he makes, especially on like the animal husbandry system and things like that. So for those of you that are new to Ashes of Creation and you are looking at, you know, the devs mentioned lightly yesterday about adjusting the hunting system, there's a lot more in depth to the animal husbandry system that we haven't even seen yet, and Burns did a great video on that. I highly recommend you go check it out on his channel. I'm gonna go find the video link later, and I'll put that also in the description for YouTube. But I love it, honestly. I think that's like, it's one of the most well explained videos ever, and you have a lot of really good, just well articulated videes that explain the point exactly the way that I would want to try and explain it myself. I'm like, no, he did it perfect. I can't even top that. That's perfect. Let me just
see a Burns video coming out. I guess we're not doing that topic. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. We're just gonna create a link and just send people there. Look, guys.
Just go watch this one.
Well, I appreciate it. I think we do. I watch a lot of you guys' stuff, and I think we do think pretty similarly on things, so I can understand. I think we feel that way about each other's content, honestly.
Absolutely. Now, that was actually going to be a question I had for you, because for those who don't know Copium Clinic, some of the most well-researched, it seems. I mean, I don't know if you just know this stuff off the top of your head and you're just like collecting stock images for the video, but like so deeply researched and so much like story build up to the point you're trying to make. It's insane. Like how does your process work? Like where do you start that? Maybe it'll help somebody in writing papers for school or something.
So I've written a lot of scholarly articles, right? Like as I was going through medical school, as I was applying to medical school too, your application for med school and then for residency looks a lot better if you have research papers done. And so I got used to that process. And so you'll notice a lot of my videos kind of play like a research article a little bit, like where there's a thesis, there's an introduction, there's a background, there's like the summary of it, there's like everything, there's the meat of it, and then at the end is the results and discussion. And so I try to make my videos as sensical, because that's the only way I know how to make a proper argument, is to go through those steps. So like one of my nobody watched the video, which is fine. It wasn't an Ashes specific video. It was the neurochemistry video that I did, the neurochemistry of MMOs
with ADHD.
No,
I watched that.
Yes.
I watched that.
You were talking about like gamification and like how yes, I loved that. That was a great video. I was like, this explains a lot, honestly, with the way that like not only do we thrive in MMOs in a way, but sometimes over consume the content in there.
I like pay to win ruins stuff. Like that was, and so I wanted to just formulate as well of an argument I could for that. And so my process is pretty simple. Like I have an idea, I want to talk about something, and then I'll just kind of stream of consciousness. I have a Word document, and I just write down as much as I can as I'm thinking about it. And then on my phone, I have notepads. I have pages and pages now. I'll show you of videos, video ideas I mean,
just keep adding to.
The problem
just
is
keeps going.
It does. I have to like go through and consolidate my notes, but it's what I mean, it's everything from like a one-liner that I want to incorporate in a video to, I mean, like articles that I've read or different principles, or I mean, I take a lot of inspiration from other content creators too, like you guys. So when I hear a point that I really, really like, I'll write down that point and I'll be like, love this. And let's see how that point applies in a different scenario here. So I do that. And then I write every single word that I say down on my Word page, my Word document, just because sometimes, I mean, not this last video about artists and stuff, but the rainbow video before that, I wanted to make sure I got everything like very neatly tied, because a few missteps could go very, very wrong there.
Yeah, exactly. No accidental misphrasings in the middle of like the heat of the moment, like off the top of your head rephrasing.
Exactly. So I write down every single word. I say it, and then I go through my editing software, and then it's like, okay, are there certain visuals that have to go here, and just make the video that way, and then I add music at the end that kind of fits the scene.
Yeah, I agree.
Gotcha.
Actually, that brings me to my next question, which are, for those who haven't met you yet, what got you into creating content for Ashes of Creation?
Other content creators. You guys, nice, and Is There No One Else? Their Voices of Era podcast. I mean, every single week I was watching that too, and Stakano, Rive. I used to call Reeve. Richie, like all the classics, Roar, Zillin, like watching the well-established creators make videos about something that, as I learned more about Ashes, at first I was just kind of like, oh yeah, maybe it'll come out in several years and I'll be interested then. But the problem is, when I watched more of your guys' stuff, I was like, oh, Intrepid and Ashes are doing things special. They're doing things the right way. And it inspires me. I feel inspired by what they're doing, because if I wanted to make an MMO, the way that they're doing it is how I would want to do it. So in my spare time, I'm not trying to make money off of my channel. I don't run, a bunch of mid-roll ads. I run one ad at the beginning and that's it. And it's helped pay for some software that I use. I think I've made a couple $100, very little money, but I'm inspired by what Intrepid is doing. And so that's why I make content. And I'm glad that, anyone bothers to watching on my stuff, because I like to have a little bit of an influence in some of the conversation. For example, like in Bespoke, the season 1 and 2 that you guys were on, I tend to ask somewhat controversial questions or questions that people, kind of the unspoken conversations, right? Like, how long is too long for Alpha 2, right? I want to have people feel like these ideas are still being discussed. Like, they don't have to freak out about stuff. Like, people are actually thinking what they're thinking too. And hear other people like you guys give your thoughts on it.
Yeah. And I really
so you
love that.
In true Dr. fashion, you like to drop those questions out there. So when's the last time you insert something Doc won't be happy and will definitely judge you with eyes only? Saying.
Yes.
Nice. I love it.
I was gonna also say, I really love that you work with so many of the other, not only content creators, I believe you had non-content creators on as well. Maybe one or two.
Okay.
Or like lesser known ones.
Sure. Yeah.
But primarily content creators. And I've seen so many content creators doing collabs lately, and that's, I think, is awesome. Yeah. But speaking of, besides Bespoke, I hear that you're joining Loreforge with Vladis. Is that true?
Oh yeah, that'll be fun. Did you guys see their Twitter post? Mm-hmm. That graphic was genius, where it's the Brady Bunch, right, lined up on those stairs, and they replaced that was fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah, so that'll be I think May 13th. I feel bad. I need to know when that is.
They said it's coming in March.
Oh, I'm sorry. March 13th, not May.
Okay. the Ides of March. No, I'm kidding. I think that's 15th. Those Ides of March. But yeah, they said this March we're launching a brand new podcast series, Lore Forged and Friends. Join Lord Forge, Vladis, and Doc Burns from Copian Clinic or Ashes of Relation as we dive into all things Ashes of Creation. Details to come. So I just wanted to put that out there in case you guys didn't hear yet. Is there anything you can share about that? Or
Yeah,
I know Lore Forge, they're pretty lock and key when it comes to information.
They keep as tight of a lip on things as Ashes does with lore, actually.
Yes, which is very funny.
Props to Lore Forged for making any kind of videos on lore for Ashes. We have very little to go off of, but no, they've done a good job with that. Yeah, it'll be a pretty relaxed. You know how they have their weekly Lore Forge podcast and they have points that they want to go through. This is going to be a little bit more of social time.
Okay, gotcha.
I dig it.
I think it's the 13th.
Cool.
March 13th. Yeah.
Mark your calendars, folks.
Okay.
You have anything else you want to ask?
I'm sure we could probably ask about Copium Clinic stuff and Burnsy stuff all day long.
Yes.
But we should probably move on to talking Ashes stuff.
Heck yes.
Yes. I agree with that.
Where are we starting?
That's a great question. Was there anything for you, Burns, that stood out to you that you want to hit, or I can totally just bring us right on in?
So, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. I think this would be a natural progression for us. So, artisan stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, we talked a little bit before the show started about some changes that are coming and, you know, what's to be expected. And this last live stream, yeah, they showed off some pocket dungeon stuff during the actual video, but really, the majority of the conversation seemed to be about artisan stuff.
Yeah. And
what struck you guys?
Q&As.
Yeah.
Honestly, for me, I've been deeply affected by the rarity. And so that's been one thing that I've been wanting to see a change in. And
what do you mean when you say deeply affected?
So I am primarily a herbalism alchemist. Okay. And for me, I really like to go out and pick the flowers and try and get really nice quality things. Before I realized that everything was static, I worked really, really hard to build as close to a legendary sickle as I possibly could for rarity.
Yeah.
And then I got epic, which I was thrilled by. That was like so much rarity. Stuff. And then I realized everything was static and it didn't matter. And I was crushed immediately. So it was one of those things where I was just like, man, okay, well, I guess this doesn't really matter. Cool. I'm not going to focus this for the next one, but I made it, so I'm going to use it. But yeah, so for me, that's the biggest thing that affected me, because I put so much time and effort into just getting that.
So much time and effort.
Yeah.
What makes the sickle a journeyman sickle? Is that right?
It was the apprentice one. I didn't bother with it once I hit journeyman because I was like, by then I realized that the rarity was regardless of what sickle you had, you were going to get a legendary if that was a legendary node. So it was just like, oh, okay, no use in
Willow and Tin for that.
I think so. Yeah, and that was really hard to get.
Yeah, that's big money. That's big money.
Yeah, I had to barter with my guildmates to get some of them, and I was like, look, I can make you potions, I can make you stuff in general. I ended up taking over tailoring for the guild, but yeah, whatever I could do. Obviously, I let people who were using it for bows and things like that, like I let them get first pick of those things, but not it didn't affect it ultimately. So I was like a bit sad.
Now with all that in mind, then here's a question for you, Burns, because I know you think about some stuff pretty deeply. With the statement that the devs made about it, the static nodes being kind of a desired feature to promote friction between players,
Yeah.
Do you really think just seeing the situation with friction and all the different friction points that do exist, and knowing that all it takes is the first hour of the server being live and everybody kind of has those static nodes located, and then they just pop back on to grab it later on? Do you really think, do you feel that there's actual like PvP friction value to having static nodes? Like, does it actually contribute anything towards the game's environment, do you think?
I mean, that's a good question, right? So there's that big patch of trees with rarity, right? Because with lumberjacking, there are trees all over the place. And just because there's a tree somewhere and you hit it doesn't mean that it is, anything green or above. The vast majority of trees are just going to be gray, a common quality or a rarity, right? Mm-hmm. But in that valley in between Miralith and Sunhaven, there's that one with all the braidwood, all the willow, and I've spawned there a few times, and there are a couple of Genesis guys who are flagged up, and I saw that they were kind of like hitting trees on one side, and so I was like, well, I won't go to that side. So I jumped over to the other side, and there was a big willow. Was it a willow? It might have been a willow at the time. I had just chopped it down, and then all of a sudden I get end capped. But I saw the willow appeared in my inventory, and it was like rare, right? It was just blue. It wasn't anything fantastic. But I mean, I've been PvP'd as I've tried to harvest resources before. Mm-hmm. What's tough with that is that usually it's a 1v1 scenario, and this game isn't balanced for 1v1. Yeah. I mean, I play fighter. I get trucked by bards. I mean, bards. Bards are way overtuned right now.
Bards are bards.
Imagine bards taking somebody out. I think you're making that up. Next, you're going to say a mage could take you out too. Jeez. Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
Just delete me. Just delete me 100%. Yeah. And so what's tough is I get marionetted while I'm trying to get a resource. Mm-hmm. They can get like 3 resources before I can get 1. So I heard them saying that. They're like, oh, yeah, we want some kind of friction here. When the system, though, is implemented in its full form in the future, with like some resources being hidden, for example. Mm-hmm. And then also, I think they still will do random rarities, right? So it's not like it's static locations, but I think it will be randomized rarities. So it's not like, for example, right now where you hit a legendary tree and then you come back 4 hours later and it is still a legendary tree.
And that was the exact point that I was about to make, because Mr. Noobtastic says static node and static rarity are 2 different issues. And I'm like, yeah, sort of, but they're highly related in this instance, because like the problem isn't that they're static nodes, it's that they're also static rarity. Yeah. But I believe one of the devs said only for up to 24 hours, and then the rarity changes. So that's not that big of a problem.
But the one thing I heard, just to add on to that, someone said that there's only like 3 or 4 templates of node locations. So once you learn them, all you got to do is go and you hunt down a couple known legendary spawns, and once you figure out which one it is, now every legendary you've picked up on that template before, you could totally have marked off somewhere. And now you can just actually take a route and grab as many as you can.
That's interesting.
This reminds me of a post that I just saw. I just feel like it adds really nicely. I wasn't gonna bring this up until later, but like maybe even next week. But this post on Reddit is actually from a famous cartoonist. And he says, follow up from the live stream. I understand that static gatherable rarities are in place to encourage contesting it. However, how would anyone know that this is contested gatherable except for the person originally gathering it and know its rarity? Which is a great point, because there's no visual cue that that's like a legendary that you're gathering except for you. You are the only one that knows that that was a legendary. And I thought that was a good like call out to like the only one sweating the fact that you just picked that flower and that it was legendary is you, because you knew that it was legendary. Unless
you're
it's like
streaming.
what Vertex said.
And
And then you're crying.
Yes.
That's such a good
And then you're
point.
crying and running back to the closest
Back to
node so that you don't
back to
die.
town.
Yeah. But in general, though, I was just thinking about that because, yeah, I mean, I've gotten legendary things and I was like, oh, I'm immediately going to go to the next town and just like drop that off because I don't want to lose that. Not even to a mob. But it's just one of those things, like, especially there's only 3 set locations. Obviously, the sweaty tryhards who've been camping those 3 set locations, if we go back to if that template is real, then they would probably know that that was maybe one of the legendaries, and if they saw you gather it, but they don't know who gathered it if they didn't.
Now, see, here's something else to add into that, though. So, I think they could absolutely do away with the static node rarities, 100%. And once they actually get the further components of the gathering systems and artisan systems in general, like put into place, there's going to be, as you said, like the hidden stuff, right? There's also going to be the surveying. Now, you know, if somebody's dropping survey pylons, they're putting in effort, and they're going to be, the purpose of the survey pylons is to find rarer stuff and to find more stuff. So you know that they're serious, but this random person that's walking around just chop tree, chop tree, chop tree, chop tree. Oh, ignore that guy. It's whatever. But that person over there keeps placing pylon after pylon and running around placing pylon after. They're gonna have the rare stuff. There's your point of friction.
Yeah.
Just follow the person dropping pylons. There you go. There's your friction point.
I think if the pylons work the way that they currently do, I don't know if you've been near somebody, Burns, who's dropped a pylon, but at least at one point, I think it flashbanged everybody nearby.
Oh,
Like,
did it
there was,
really?
very obvious, like somebody just dropped a pylon. We're like, what the heck was over there? And we just run over there, and there's like this random pylon in the middle. But yeah, I don't know if pylons go in your material slot or your items, but that's a good point, though. Yeah, not for the pylon, but for the legendaries that they may have picked up. We don't need artificial friction points. We make enough friction on our own accord. Yeah. Absolutely. But my favorite thing, though, is that you could hear kind of the gears turning while they were live, to the point that even as they're discussing this live, Steven's like, well, maybe this could be a dev like question. And sure enough, like Maggie was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's make it a dev discussion. And Vacnar, if you're listening, let's get that on there. And I was just like, that's very, you kind of heard like a real life, like kind of like strategy meeting almost, just through conversing about what people were asking about. That being said, I have in my note
development
here.
process.
Yep,
Exactly. That's a better way of putting it.
agile.
Yes. My other favorite thing, though, is that they were talking about a lot of these changes to the rarity, which they're aware of, possibly coming into the end of March, which sounds like there's going to be this huge update in March. We've got Rogue supposedly coming end of March, Sieges coming end of March, and now possibly a rarity change. There's a lot coming packed in, and I don't know which excites you the most, do you think, of all the things that they mentioned coming at the end of the month?
So I like craft in MMOs. I do crafting. I do like artisan stuff, and I do PvP. So I mean, it's like pick your favorite kid. You know,
Talk about opposite sides of the spectrum. Just saying.
It's true. It's true. It is
really
better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
So I like I like PvP, but I also like when I just log on and maybe I got some kids around, or just kind of hanging out with the fam, right? I can still be cutting trees. I can just be casually playing around, having a good time, but still, like, I've got music on or whatever. I can be vibing out with like artisan stuff. So that's part of why I like that. But when I want to like get my heart pumping and like get those good clips and have a either create some drama or address some drama, I like the PvP, and it creates there's the lulls and then there's the big highs and stuff. So I honestly, though, I think the sieges are going to take a lot of work. I think they're going to be very buggy. So yes, I'm excited for those, but I'm excited for what they'll become. I'm immediately affected by the artisan stuff because it's tough. I mean, they say it resets every 24 hours, but is it at server reset, which is at 4 a.m. Central Time? I'm not up at 4 a.m. Central Time. I have actually gotten up at 4 a.m. Central Time, though. I went to bed at 8 p.m. I mean, Magic Pipe will attest. I went to bed at 8 p.m. Central Time so I could get up, and I didn't fall asleep for a while still, but so I could get up at server reset, and I got up, and like it was too hard with the time to have that be a functional thing. I honestly wish that they would push that back to some extent because on our server, what we have is we have the Australian guys who are able to just take advantage of that because the time isn't as big of a deal for them. And then they have people that stay up. So they find out when the spawns are. I mean, it's at night for them, in the evening, I should say. And then they have guys that stay up all, the next 10 hours while everyone's asleep or working or whatever. And then, so they're able to camp that stuff pretty reliably. And so, I mean, if you guys could create the rarity system, what would you do? What would be your ideal situation with spawn location and rarities?
So for me, like, because I thought about this a little bit, right? And to be honest, I've never really been a big artisan / crafting person in any game because all the systems have just been kind of junk. I didn't really play Star Wars Galaxies, so I can't comment on that one. I missed out on that whole thing completely. But everywhere else, it's like you do crafting because it'll save you some coin, but you don't do crafting to get ahead and like do awesome things. Like, and in WoW, it's like you have to do a crafting thing. You have to if you're gonna have any kind of an edge. Like it makes up 5 to 10% of your end game power or utility or flexibility, and it's your choice on which way you want to go with it. Do you want to get goblin gliders, or do you want to have like just straight power or healing power or health with your jewel crafting or whatever? But you kind of have to. If you don't, then you're just well behind the curve on everything. But the actual crafting part itself, outside of the perks, is garbage. So I never really paid as much attention. So I might not have my finger on the pulse of what would make it really good, but I thought it would be dandy if everything was literally random. Every node that spawned was a random rarity. And what they were mentioning with like you hit big veins of a certain metal or whatnot. So you know what? There's also a random chance that one node turns into 5. And you get like a bunch of like 5 nodes that just pop up right there next to each other. And maybe they have an increased chance of each one having a higher rarity. So instead of like a 1% legendary, so if you spark like a major vein, you're gonna, instead of having one node that has a 1% chance of legendary, you have 5 nodes that each have a 5% chance of a legendary. So you could find one legendary in there maybe that like a combined like 20-25% chance you're gonna maybe find a legendary in there. Something like that would be kind of cool, because then it's like a double lucky find, or just a single lucky find if you just end up rolling up to a single like five node of even just braidwood, for crying out loud.
Sure.
Yeah, you have 5 braidwood trees just right next to each other. Holy mackerel! Let's go. I always thought that'd be nice, but then you get the tools and whatnot that if you focus on them like Chibi had, to get like an increase in rarity, when you get to a certain point, you have a guaranteed it's going to knock it up 1 notch higher. But anything below that, and you have a chance of getting it there. You might, maybe. Let's see what happens. Let's see if you get a lucky cut of that axe. But But
because that was
I
at
figured,
significant expense to Chibi. I mean, she beat her sword into a plow, right? Like instead, she could have taken those materials to instead of make a tool that essentially, unfortunately, right now is kind of worthless. Like she could have made, fairly significant weapons. And I like that they make you choose that in the early to mid game, right? Where you have to choose, hey, am I going to use this rare material to go into helping me get rare resources more, or am I going to use it to, pwn the noobs or whatever, right? Like, I think that is a meaningful choice that they have you do, but I think they do need to reward you. To your point, they need to reward you more for choosing to put your resources into, the gear, the buffs, all that stuff to get better resource gathering.
Yeah. Before I answer mine, I want to hear yours, because after all, you're the guest and I really want them to hear your thoughts. But how would you answer your own question?
Pretty similar to Vertec. I mean, every time they were talking about locations being, some of them being static, and they used, for example, along rivers, there would be more rubies that would show up there. And I think that's fine, where you have more standard-ish locations. So you kind of know, oh, hey, here's a river. I'm looking for some rubies. I could put down some pylons, or I could just kind of know around rivers or rubies, and there's some various locations that they'll spawn. That's fine. I do want it to be a random seed every time you go up to it, though, where it's, on a value of 0 to 100, and there are cutoffs for the different rarity levels, and your gear, your sickle, whatever you have will augment that seed, that number, that 0 to 100 number, which could potentially bump it up in rarity. And I think that is what everyone honestly was expecting was the case, right? When we saw, hey, you can get gear and you can get bags and food and all this stuff that increases the rarity. I think everyone was kind of expecting that, because this rarity system, I freaking love it. I mean, this apparently, Vertec, like with Star Wars Galaxies, apparently this is very similar to that system where one type of resource has multi-tiered rarities, which is great. I freaking love it. I'm like I talked about in my video, it's a slot machine, right? Like, oh, hey, like you see a tin, right? And you hit it, there's a chance you get a jackpot on that and it's legendary. And that is exciting. It's enthralling. It pulls you in. It's the little dopamine hit, but it's just enough to keep you coming back for more. I think it's a fantastically designed system, but in my opinion, there needs to be a random seed. And then to Vertec, what you were talking about earlier with the nodes, or the veins, what might be cool is maybe like a Russian nest doll, right? You hit the big first one, and then under that it's a little bit smaller, but maybe higher rarity, and under that it's I don't know. I mean, I do like neat. The idea of randomly spawning veins as well, because that adds variety to the world. We spend thousands of hours in MMOs, and when it's reacting in real time and doing new things, and that feels fresh, as opposed to just, I'm gonna run through my same route, same time all over again and expect the exact same result. That's boring, that's stale, nobody wants that. We've done that in every other MMO and it sucks. What's so cool about the landform tool is, if you're over harvesting something, you chop down all the trees, right? There's braidwood, you chop down all the braidwood in the Riverlands. Well, now they're going to grow back slower, which is so cool. I love, so I think when they implement landform as well, I think that will have a real-time effect on the gatherables. But that's my pick. How about you?
Before you go, Chibi, just to add on one real quick thing that maybe you'll be able to react to as well, is the nesting doll thing you were talking about, kind of with the vein that I had mentioned. Like, you can, like, if you roll a 100, then there's going to be a legendary in there. If you roll a 99, then it's going to be a vein of like 5 nodes or something. But then if you knock out all 5 of those, the next time and this is where like people could come back and make routes, because if they find a vein, one vein is going to end up respawning back in a certain amount of time with 4 instead of 5. And then you come back again, it's 3 instead of 4. And then 2 instead of 3, and then 1. And then when you kill off that last one with a single node, then it counts as having mined 1 time. So you're not actually draining the resources of the area to take out that that vein that you got lucky and you struck a little bit of luck there. I think that'd be kind of neat. Because that would be something to mark down, because if it's pure random seed, it's pure random in the world, pure random on the rarity and everything as well. At least it's something to mark down and be like, I found this, and you kind of stake your claim in that manner. Like, I found this node vein here. I'm coming back for this, but it's completely random. It'd be nifty. But sorry, Chibi, as you were saying.
It's fine. I have a lot to respond to now.
You do.
Let me just try to remember the original question here. I think you're asking how I would like to see rarity be in Ashes.
Yeah, if you could design like location, location and rarity spawning of resources, how would you do it?
Okay. So to start with that question, I think I would probably have it where there's maybe like a mesh grid of an area where that static node might grow back in, but it's randomized within this zone. That way, because right now I've noticed people just literally logging out where the tree spawns in and then logging back in, and there's the tree right in front of them and they chop it. So if you have it randomly spawn within a small area, maybe make it like a 5 by 5 foot range. If you were to log back in, you're not really sure which one of those near you is the one, unless it's like bluebells, where that's a little bit more obvious, because it's like the only flower in the area, really. A lot of the bluebells are kind of on their own, I noticed. So not only would I like to see a little bit of variety within a specific region where the static node is, but I agree to your points as well with the rarity proccing, because if I do put in time and effort into a rarity resource, I would like to see that if it's a common, it at least has a higher chance of proccing up to uncommon. I had thought with getting at least 300 minimum of rarity rating increase from just my sickle, not even including my clothing, that I would get less commons. But that wasn't the case. I think I immediately chopped down like 12 flowers and got all common, that like whole entire set. And hello, Lloyd. Thank you for the raid. Welcome in. Welcome to the tavern.
Oh, hello, friend. And hello, everybody that came on over. How are you folks doing?
We're talking
tonight?
about rarities with friends.
And how rare of a gem Lloyd is. Speaking of Bespoke Season 4 with Lloyd.
Nice. Looking forward to that.
Yes.
Hope you did some fun and interesting stuff there, Lloyd. I saw you were running around with Jamie.
Yeah. To bring it back, though, I think having a lot more heavy intention on rarity and things like that should be added to it. I lost some of the points that I was going to make from all of the conversation, but I'll just move forward to the part about the nodes. I don't like the idea of it coming back multiple times. I'm going to be honest, with the veins. And the reason why is it sounds like, from what I think it was Rhett that was talking, it sounds like the design choice of that was that it's kind of like an event for the crafting system, for the artisan system. We have events for the adventuring system. You have the hills have knives and things like that pop up out of nowhere when you're out adventuring, but there's no artisan events that pop up.
That's a good point.
And so I think that Rhett's purpose of having like this series of, hold on, let me see. Vein. Yes. So, I think they're saying it's not that there will be not having randomly generated, but that they will exist, and they want to consider having veins of ore or larger nodes that happen until it's depleted. One-time spawns that the server gets alerted to, limited quantity to simulate it, and it's kind of including that whole. I don't know about you guys on your server, but we were fighting over raptors to the point people were PvPing over just raptors.
Yeah.
And so I imagine something very similar happening if there's this event that happens of this, vein that popped up, and there's like a gathering event essentially from that. And I think that would be really cool, because for people that are very focused on artisan and PvP like yourself, I feel like that would appeal to you a little bit more. There's a reason to go over there and go do that. There's a unique maybe a treant has blessed this area because the people were very kind to the woods and didn't chop down all the trees. So instead of punishing, they've spawned a bunch of special seeds that grow high quality willow or something like that. And now there's this vein of willow that you're able to collect, but it's a one-time event for that moment. Like maybe it'll be like another month or so before you see something like that. And I think that that would be really helpful, because when you're adding in not only the tool that you mentioned, but also the fact that there's the economic warfare, I like to call it, where you could just chop down all of the trees and then now the tree is angry at you. I feel like that adds a lot more variety to just your life day to day. There's always something to go do. There's maybe an event that pops up or things like that. But Mr. Noobtastic says server-wide announcements. A wild herd of raptors has been sighted in the south of Sunhaven. Yeah, that would bring some action for sure. I agree. But my question is, should it be server-wide or region-wide?
Right. I mean, that's part of what I like about harvesting, and I like their intention with it, is that it gets you out into the world, into remote places that you wouldn't go otherwise, right? So you are, I mean, the map is already big, but it's just going to be vast. And I think it's so exciting where, oh, okay, this area got super harvested. Well, while this area is getting super harvested, this area got ignored. So you can then start going over here and harvesting, and you're checking out a new area. Like, it's a constantly rotating thing, which is going to feel fresh, and it's going to feel new and alive. And I like that a lot.
Yeah. Vertec, what do you think? Mr. Noobtastic even added in something like biome wide, maybe.
Honestly, I just think, yeah, some kind of interesting event like that would definitely be welcome. Like, make it interesting, you know? Because at the same time, it's still gonna leave the gathering, at least, where it can be a chill mode type of thing. Like, you don't have to do the survey pylons, you don't have to take part in the big event, but you can still just run around and do your thing. But for those who are actively trying to get stuff, like actively trying to go out and be a great gatherer, make money with it, make a livelihood out of it, like this is their thing, like that'd be something nifty to pop up.
Yeah.
Can I answer a question from chat?
Yeah, go for it.
So Osiris asked, he's like, yo, Doc, where did you get your hair done? Asking for a friend. I did almost a year ago now. You'll notice I wasn't wearing a hat in my videos, and then I was wearing a hat in all of my videos and appearances up until recently. Because, I got, it was to be as intentionally vague as possible. It was a quid pro quo with the wife, where she was just like, hey, I would like you to not be bald. And I said, I liked it. When I shaved my head, I liked it. And she's like, yeah, but I don't. And so I said, okay. I got a hair transplant where they took a bunch of hair follicles from here and they stuck them right up top. And so it's a little bit thicker up top than it was. And so yes, and wife wins always. Absolutely. I mean, I liked shaving my head. I liked the look. I felt a little more aggressive, which I didn't mind. But no, she wanted it, and so I said, okay, yep, sounds good. So to be a good husband, and marriage is give and take, right? And so got a hair transplant, and now I'm not as bald as I was.
A little bit of Doc Burns lore there.
Yes.
I love it. Lloyd was asking, if you make veins an event, do you make it a combat zone? And I was going to say, I don't think you need to make it a combat zone. I feel like the players will do that themselves. There's a reason why you can flag up for PvP.
That's a great answer.
And I think that, let's go back to the basics of PvP. In case a few of you may not know, if you flag up for PvP, you lose less than if you don't flag up for PvP. So let's say the node vein is an event, and I think that it's intended because if you're going to do a wild, like, cross the server notification, that to me kind of makes it an event. And then if you get a legendary item out of that, I would be fighting tooth and nail to not lose as much of that legendary stuff as I could possibly do it, because I've already realized that, you know, not only do you get a little less XP debt, I believe, but you also drop less.
Yeah, good point.
And so that at least then I can get away with something if I can't get away with all of it, you know, versus dropping at least 50% of what I've dropped, 25% of that being able to get returned. So yeah, that's my thoughts. The other thing I was gonna say, my answer to making it server wide versus maybe biome only, is they talked a lot during the live stream about the player being the center of the story. And you know who speaks really quickly and travels like rumor really quickly are players. And so if something is zone specific, like, oh, only in the Sand Squall Desert is this Joshua Tree vein suddenly appearing, you know there are people that are probably in VCs with their guildies. You know there's people that are probably in groups with other people across the server or in their guild chats saying, yo, dude, I just got a notification there's Joshua trees in the Sand Squall Desert. Hurry up, get over here. Like, they're gonna tell other people that it's over there. And I feel like that has more of an impact, because I feel like there's no like, I don't know what to, like, how do I, what's a good example? There's no like sign in the sky that says that strawberries are in season somewhere in the real world, but you know that people find these interesting things because word gets around and it travels and it goes far, and people go, oh, I want to go check that out, or I want to go, you know, get some of the fresh strawberry mead. I don't know.
And some people are gonna say there's a Joshua Tree event going on in the desert. Sounds like a perfect time for me to run a caravan from New Ayla.
Oh,
yes.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yes. So I think that I would really like to see them rely more on social network by the players,
Yeah.
rather than doing server-wide announcements for everything, because that kind of dictates, like, do I keep this a secret? Is this my secret that I'm keeping because I'm here? Or is it like, oh man, I don't know if you're in a guild, but let's say your guild also is there and you're like so excited, you're like, oh dude, there's this one guy that's like, he's known as the other lumberjack besides just me, you know? So I'm like, oh man, I bet Burns has already told other people that they're coming. We better hurry up and get over there and try to get however many we can before they're gone, kind of thing. And and it's like that, like, not really parasocial, but that's like, it's that like almost just societal conflict of like keeping it to yourself or telling other people.
It's just another social layer, and this game does so good at adding social layers like this, that exactly what you're talking about I think would fit very well within the confines of this game being such a social game. What did you guys think about when they were talking about in the desert, how he said half a dozen, so I assume about six new resources being introduced into the desert? I thought that was crazy.
I was going to ask you that same question because you're the lumberjack, and he mentioned 2 new trees.
Yeah.
And Vertec is probably excited because they mentioned cactus fruit for cooking.
I'm in a weird place with cooking. I was all about it, but it's a good way to go broke. So I just don't mess with it. It's a really good way to go broke.
I don't know. I am assuming that you're on Vira, or are you on the
I'm on Vira
server?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how your server does this, but for animal husbandry and cooking, they are selling for less than it costs to make them.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I make some food for myself, and I keep some stuff around, and I hook up some guildies, but most of the time it's like just go to the market and buy it. People are selling the stuff cheaper than I can make it, so just do that. And so I'm in a weird place with cooking. I'm excited for more stuff to come out, but I'm like, is it really gonna be worth it?
It's worth it for testing and giving your thoughts back, you know, like. Well, I mean, I
gave the feedback that I could, but at this point it's a player situation more than anything.
Yeah. No, I'm just even meaning like, how do you feel about having like X amount of new things to make? Do you feel like that's an appropriate amount for this whole other biome area. Like there's a lot that you could add in with just them adding new things to like certain biomes. But I am over here being an alchemist, being like, what new things can alchemy do? Because we don't get recipes. So what can I do at the table?
Yeah, very right.
I mean, honestly, also Magic by needing to make consumables more valuable to players, I can make something that will give somebody 10% more power.
Yes.
As a one food consumable will give you 10% of your power.
It really comes down, in my opinion, it really comes down to server economy because we had, I don't know if you've known, but Yami and Falco moved over to Lineth recently, and they're like, dude, everything's cheap over here. I'm like, well, yeah, a lot of us don't have money. The ones that mainly have money are probably people in Overlord, Pirates, and Fed, which are all these bigger, compared to even my guild, bigger guilds that have the resources to be able to grab all of these resources and not only sell them because they have an overabundance to the market to then get higher amounts of income, but also within each other. So you're not spending as much of your gold going to the market to get them. Your guild is able to handle that. So
yeah, well, also like on Lineth, it's also the fact that people aren't murdering everybody every 12 steps. So there's more resources in the economy to be used to make stuff. So then there's more stuff out there, so it's cheaper.
That too. And that's the other thing. That's why I was asking. I don't know how Vyra is with your resources for food and things like that for buffs, but it's pretty cheap over on Lineth.
Yeah, it is. It is a war-torn environment. The governors the mayors don't work together very well. We have some guilds that have multiple mayorships because they have their guildies make multiple level 10 characters to go and vote, and they don't actually care about the node. They just care about the flying mount. Yeah, which sucks. I don't like the idea of every mayor getting a flying mount, because some of these guys, they don't even freaking PvP. They just go and they jump my harvesting route with their flying mount, and it pisses me off, right? Like, it's like, man, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, honestly, I can't wait for that being just a Metropolis thing.
Yes, 100%.
I was gonna add.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. Completely agree.
Yeah. And Lloyd, where is that? Is that in?
He's, I believe, on Vyra. Yeah, he's with Tangent's guild.
I mean, that's expensive. To be honest, like, I mean, that's a big, because you can make like most of that
5 or 10 silver.
Yeah, so roasted chicken, the only thing you can actually go out and farm is 2 flowers. There's a daffodil and there's a snowdrop. That's it. Everything else you buy from the vendors. You just have to have a tier 3 cookhouse, or the journeyman cookhouse, basically. And then you buy all the stuff from the vendor, and it's like 8 processing steps. By the time it's all said and done, it'll cost you like 8 silver or so to make it.
That's wild. About to just pack. Vertex about to pack us up from Lineth and take us over to Vyra so we can make money off of.
Yeah, so being able to get that for like 30 silver out there, yeah, okay. I see. That's about what we did some calculations based on like the time it takes, and you compare it to, making money in other ways, and like what you should be able to get as a stable income doing basically anything worthwhile in the game. And figured out that to make one of those roasted chicken, you should be able to sell it for like 24 silver. And that should be like a decent, like, balanced income.
Sure.
Compared to some other sources of making gold, like caravans and gathering and such like that. But but people are selling it. I told you it takes 8 silver to make each one. People are selling it for 8 silver.
Dude, that's wild.
On the auction house, on the marketplace thing.
That's
like,
wild.
That's like the going price for all that food. Like, I'm not really going to waste all my time to sell it at cost.
Too. Yeah. Bad merchants. Yeah, no, honestly, like, I really do think that the server sets the price. And I think with a lot of us, like, I don't know how much gold Vertex has, but I think I have maybe 5 or 10 gold. And I've been trying really hard to get gold.
I have 3. I have 3 gold. 3 gold to my name.
So There are a couple of community created websites. So sorry, Boom Boom Hee Hee was asking a few questions. First off, is the Golden Feather a game? No, it's not a game. We are a community podcast on Ashes of Creation. And then you ask, can you play this now? Yes, Ashes of Creation is currently out for Alpha 2 testing. We're in phase 2 of the testing. We're about halfway through that. But on their site, ashesofcreation.com, you are able to buy a access key to the game, but they don't have a whole lot of information on their website on things like this. We do have a community wiki, which I think the bot is down, so I can't do !wiki, but there is a community wiki, ashesofcreation.wiki, that is run by Lex. And then there are a couple of other community ran sites like Ashes of Creation Codex, which is primarily data mine stuff on the game. And then I forgot the other one, but they have like a little calculator on like what resources you need to get the outcome that you're looking for and also on top of that, the rarity quality that you need. And that was the other point that I was going to make is I'm really excited about like these new items being introduced, but I did notice that at least on the processing and crafting side, rarity does play a role, where if I can get my rarity high enough, I was able to boost somebody's like epic into a legendary, albeit a low rolling legendary. But I think I had like 565 rarity rating on my clothes as a tailor, because you don't get a tool as a tailor, you just get whatever's at the desk and then your recipes. But I did notice that rarity is playing a role there. I would just like to see it on the gathering side as well a little bit more. That was the other point that I wanted to make on that.
I'd like to be able to mix rarities in processing.
Oh,
that'd be great.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, and I agree too on that. I'm gonna if you're not using the bot, I'm just gonna open the bot and copy and paste a couple of links, so that's a little easier.
And they did say they are making a big change to refining. I wonder if first of all, I hate the numbers like 1, 5, 10, 25, 50. I can't stand that, right? Just slider scale.
I would like to make 73, please.
Yeah, exactly. Then mixing rarities. Everyone likes mixing rarities on crafting. I think mixing rarities on refining, and you can set the things to be really stringent, right? But because, you know, at some point people say, hey, there just needs to be more legendary oak trees. And it's like, well, okay, yes, but also you need scarcity. You can set the refining to still mix and still allow for scarcity, right? You just set the thresholds really low, or high, I should say. So, but I'm right there with you. Mixing rarities totally would be great.
Yeah, and I actually, I'm making my own video again because I'm getting back into making scripted videos, and I talk about this a bit in that, and I explain why currently it's more for like documentation purposes of like this is currently how it is in Ashes. But we had a couple of podcasts where we were talking about the rarity being affected by processing and being able to mix things the way that you can do in crafting. Yeah. And I don't even care if it's one of those things where there's not like a range, but if all I can get access to is a blue fat, why can I not at least get like an epic or heroic slate weapon mold out of it if everything else is legendary and epic? I don't like being limited to that where everything else has to be the same quality, because I mean, that's how you get rose gold. You mix bronze, I think, with gold, and you get copper and gold together, and then you get like a pinky gold. So you're taking a cheaper, lesser quality material and you're mixing it with a very nice, high refined material, and you're getting a nice, pretty different material in the middle. So why can that not work with other processes like potions and crafting and things like that? I would love to see something like that being implemented.
I can't wait for that video.
Me either. But Newtastic was saying that this week is the first time they iterated rarity mats affecting processing, and I was trying to figure out like what he meant by that. Yeah, and it was by like if you're processing something that's legendary, you're getting a higher amount of XP compared to something that's rare.
Okay.
And so that makes more sense. And I think a lot of crafters and processors have been asking for that because I don't know how many common boots I made just to get to apprentice or journeyman.
Yeah.
It's interesting they're adding all these new, like lithium, for example, is going to be in the desert Joshua tree, right? All these new gatherables. At what point, I mean, when you think about all the different gatherables in every biome, we're going to need a ton. And my question is it actually, are we going to have this much topographical variety in all of our gatherers across both continents?
Yeah, all the different biomes, because they were saying different regions would have different gatherables too. So it's like, and like how many gatherables are there going to be of, even let's just say comparison, like of level like 50, like, well, let's say Grandmaster tier, how many are there going to be across an entire map? And how many are going to be compatible with like making the same kind of thing with the different material to get a different look or like a slightly different flavor of effect or whatever? It's going to be pretty crazy. Like, we're going to need a website with a giant database just to keep track of it.
Because I have the bot open, it's welcoming people into the chat.
They'd have been hanging out all night. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I have the bot open so I can test things. I wonder if this works. Hey, I can at least do that.
Nice.
That's mainly what I wanted to be able to do with it.
It's just not going to be connected through to OBS to make things happen.
Yeah, which, if you're wondering, that's why I disabled a few things that are OBS specific. I apologize. Okay, I was just gonna say, I realized that Osiris says big love everyone. That was a highlight. I totally saw that was a highlight, but I forgot to address it. My apologies. But what were you gonna say, Bryn?
Oh, I mean, I think lithium's a weird one because it's kind of like it's on the periodic table. It's just right above sodium. Like if you get lithium wet, it ignites, right? Like it's not like this metal that's widely used in stuff. There are very specific uses for lithium.
So
I don't think
what you're saying is open sea warfare.
I mean,
is what you're saying.
I wonder if they're going to use it like in wands, or they're going to use it in more less armor and in a more like reactive reagent type stuff. Could be cool, but when I heard that, I was like, really? Lithium's like this soft, like combustible metal. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
I was going to say launch balls of lithium at the other ships. You know.
I mean, hopefully. Mr. Newtastic's right there with you, lithium cannonballs and naval warfare.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is if you it's so soft. If you tried to use it, like it would like shoot it out of a cannon. It would
explode right away.
Yeah, exactly.
So almost like a water balloon, only it's like a lithium balloon. It's going to splat on side of the side of the ship. It's going to get splashed, and there goes the side of the ship, right?
Yeah, there he goes. Oh my gosh. So the ploy is you secretly replace the enemy's cannonballs with lithium cannonballs.
There it is.
And then
you take lithium and you wrap it in a sodium shell. You fire it that way.
Oh my gosh.
Sodium is even more fun. It's pure sodium.
Yeah. Fair enough. Because I think sodium's kind of squishy too. That's not really like very, very hard on its own.
I mean, I'm just saying, I could see putting bits of lithium into like a potion.
Yeah.
And then because there's potion launchers, right? So then if you put it in the potion, at least it's like, I don't know, magic.
Catch.
Yeah. Explosion. I don't even know how that would work, actually. I'm putting too much logic in it.
The number of recipes that are in the game right now already is huge.
Yeah, and that's actually something that Magnificent Pipe,
Magic Pipe
also mentioned. Magic Pipe. I went backwards, but it says that makes for an insane amount of recipes as well. And I was like, yes, but also no, because I think they're intending on certain things to be interchangeable, right? So if I'm making a health pot, one might use bluebells, the next might use whatever a tier 3 flower could be, gloom petals or whatever to make. We don't have access to journeyman, so I have no idea what a tier 3 potion looks like. But then the flower part is the main part being changed out there with the powder, right? You grind it into powder and then you turn that into the potion. And it doesn't really matter which flower type you're making, you're still making that mana pot. It's just, is it a tier 2 mana pot or is it a tier 3 mana pot? And I think that would help with condensing the giant list, but also going sideways. You've got your poppies in the desert and your agave in the desert. So is that a poppy based mana pot or is that a bluebell based mana pot, for example?
Sure.
Or health salve, etc. So I think that as we expand sideways with the amount of tier 2, tier 1, and tier 3 things we can harvest, I'd like to see more interchangeable pieces within that, as well as some new things that I can create with it. I got really excited with poppy milk because I thought it was something that was going to be for cooking, maybe. I have no idea what it is for still. I can see that you can make poppy milk with it, but I have no idea what you make with poppy milk.
So now the question I would have then, I guess for both of you is, if things were directly interchangeable, like let's say looking at for a health pot recipe, you need water, you need some other random solid, and then you need a red flour.
Okay.
And it's always going to be water, some other random something that's equatable, but then a red flour. That's the one constant for health pots. You have tier 1 red flowers, tier 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 red flowers. But then you also have Riverland's red flowers, and then you have mountain red flowers, and you have tropics red flowers. But if they're exactly equatable across like tier 4 red flower between all the different biomes, and they'll all make the same health pot, like, is that just overcomplication for the sake of overcomplication?
I don't think that's what the system is, though, because do you remember on the live stream back when they did when they made the that sword with the glowing stuff around it?
Yeah.
And how every different so there's the base recipe with the mandatory stuff, but then there was the optional thing that you would have in there, and based on what you would put in for the optional reagent, it would change the outcome. It would change the perks of that weapon, right? And I think that's likely what we're going to be getting, and I think that's great. With your example, if you use a mountain flower versus a desert flower, it would change it from being one effect, maybe crit chance, to fizz power or something like that, right? Like it changes the status effects on it and the perks, and I think that's such a good system, man. I think that's so immersive and customizable. You can completely change your build the way that you want to with crafting stuff, and it just sounds so fun.
And that adds really back to one thing that I love to bring back all the time. I'm a big Legend of Zelda fan, especially Breath of the Wild, and the way that they do cooking and things like that. It says very generic things like mix a monster part with something else to make a potion, but you don't know what potion that is. You just know that there's these monster parts and then there's these other things that you have, and you mix them together and you just wonder what you're going to get out of it. And then that's how you learn, okay, this is how I make this potion, this is how I make that potion. I would love to see something like that within Ashes, where there's these mandatory things for making potions, as Vertek mentioned, like typically it's just a pail of water and then whatever powder. And so I would love to see, like, here's your pail of water. You have to mix it with an herb to make a potion of some sort. And that's how you figure out what potions you can make. And I don't know. I think that would be really, really cool, because I love the learning and exploring side of artisan systems. And like, just my favorite thing that draws me to alchemy is just the idea of like an actual alchemist had to sit there and toy with different ingredients until they figured out the right way to make a healing salve, especially in the Renaissance area, where you go to these people to make ointments and things that you put onto your battle scars to help prevent, we didn't have modern medicine back then, so you just tried to live as long as you could. But I'm just saying, I think that would be really cool.
That's why I hope they have like recipe discovery as well.
Yes.
It'd be real nifty. Where you go there and you just toss some stuff in. Like if you're cooking, you're like, I wonder what happens if I toss in some grem meat with the spicy chili peppers and I don't know, toss some carrots in there, I guess. See what happens.
Yes.
And you come back with
Vertex
either
said earlier, we made a tavern call for Doc.
Birds of the Tavern. Yeah, we made a tavern call.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know if you guys remember the intro that I recorded for my first appearance ever was welcome to the tavern, free medical exams in the back.
Yes. I really liked that one. I'm keeping an archive of all the old ones, and I want to try and do something kind of cool with all of the different
I'm gonna be
renditions
honest,
of.
that's one that I didn't really get all the connotation till after the fact, because I don't think we knew at the time that you were doing the doc thing. So it was just like medical exams at the back. Okay, cool, whatever, and it went way over my head. I didn't understand it till a lot later. Like, okay, that makes sense now. I get it. And I thought it was
I'm just saying, if Burns and I end up being on the same server together, I'll just be supplying the doctor with alchemical potions and
that'd be
like
sweet. I'll be on my freehold farm, just creating all kinds of weird animals, weird wacky combinations. One thing that I like about animal husbandry, seriously. One thing that I like about animal husbandry is getting the meta for it will be hard with recipes and crafting everything. For better or for worse, everything gets data mined and it gets put on Ash's Codex, right? Everyone has it. They can look it up, and there are some other resources now that are kind of springing up too. And it ruins the discovery, which if you don't want that discovery to be ruined, then fine, don't go on Ash's Codex. But you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. The thing with animal husbandry though is, how do you data mine percentages? How do you data mine the Mendelian genetic side of okay, do I have a heterozygote or a homozygote here, right? Like, you can't meta that. The way that Mendelian genetics works is unmetable. And so I think that's just going to be so much fun and provide so many hours, endless hours of, okay, I gotta go get another horse because I screwed up this breeding, and I gotta, you're making your charts, you're making your Punnett squares, you're making your family history trees, all that stuff. I am very excited for what's coming with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you play a BDO at all?
No, but I'm familiar with the system. I watched a bunch of BDO videos on their breeding system in preparation for my video.
It was such a pain.
Wait, Nara says unmetaable perhaps, but definitely edible. Please don't eat my horse.
Times
are
rough,
right? Animal husbandry is going to be 3 separate subspecialties. You can grandmaster, two things, but within animal husbandry, it's going to be 3. There's going to be beasts of burden. There's going to be mounts. And then there's going to be edibles. There's going to be farm animals, right? There's going to be the harvestable animals. So, yeah.
True. Very fair. Vertex, were you going to add on to the BDO comment?
Oh, just that it was a pain in the neck. I think we went through. I know I tried to get the dream horse. I want to say like 15 times. Like 15 times. Nope. And each time you fail, it's supposed to increase your chances.
Yeah.
But after 15 times, I think I was up to like a 2% chance or something silly like that.
Yeah. I was going to say, coming from a dev's perspective, if the algorithm exists in the game, you could probably be able to data mine what that algorithm could be.
True.
And then I could see being able to choose having drop downs of what's the base animal and then what are some of the characteristics that animal has. And then being able to display a variety of possible outcomes via the algorithm by like having the codex be able to like say, okay, this is the mom and this is the dad per your input. These are the variety of options per the algorithm that it could come out to be. I could totally see something like that, just completely from a developer standpoint of like, if I can figure out the algorithm and be able to replicate or like put in like, this is what the algorithm the game is using, because I was able to data mine it, or in a lot of cases, like look at the code for whatever algorithm somebody's using, then I mean, it's going to be a complex thing to incorporate, but it's doable. Like you can try and figure it out. It's not going to be easy, and I don't think it's going to be super accurate, but it'll at least give you maybe an idea of what the game might possibly do.
Well, if they actually are doing Mendelian genetics, there will be multiple traits that each animal has, and the hard part will be keeping the desirable traits and not having the undesirable traits, right?
Yeah.
So and figuring out when you go catch a horse in the wild, is it heterozygote or homo, right? Is it big A, or is it big A little a for this? And so that level of experimentation, no website will be able to tell you what you have, right? Like you will have to experiment and breed that animal and see based on your results what you likely have. I don't know if you'll ever even get a guarantee that you have one thing, unless, like you somehow get a recessive and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I know I have at least one little a, right? So yeah, anyways, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
I have to say thank you, because by the way, guys, if you're not having any clue of what the doctor just explained, please go check out his video on animal husbandry.
Thank you for linking that.
I love it.
This is from at least a year ago, which your thumbnail alone says you can't meta this. So you are still in line, at least from a year ago, of your thoughts on the breeding and animal husbandry system. So yes, honestly, go check that video out. It's an oldie but a goodie for sure. And I was waiting for a good reason to like drop that in. I was like, I'm gonna put this in here somewhere.
That was my first video ever that Steven commented on, and I was like, holy crap, I can't believe he watches this.
I'm famous.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Penumbra says, with limited breeding attempts, you'll not know what you have until it dies.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fertility is going to be one of the stats, and so I think you'll want something with high fertility. Yeah.
Or maybe it's kind of like one of those things where it's legendary, where like maybe some of the best things come from really low fertility.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that could be. I mean, Bucky's designing the system, right? So
yeah.
I am so excited to see more of that, but it's going to be phase 3, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say, Bucky, if you're watching this, you don't have to tell me if I'm right or not, but I'm curious if I'm on the right track with how you're designing it. Because to me, it's like the risk versus reward, and the more limited something is, the greater the risk is. So if you only can breed it once or twice, that having a higher chance of having a better outcome would kind of make sense in that vein of thinking. So
yeah, agreed.
Curious. But I will say we have kept you for quite a long time today.
We have.
On top of our technical difficulties. Apologies, everybody. Vertec and I share OBS on OneDrive, and he just got back home this morning from his trek. So everything was not quite synced up well. We were running into a lot of issues, especially with the streamer bot. And we're here now, though. What would you say, as we get to the end of this, something that we haven't talked about yet, or something that we have talked about kind of, is the biggest thing that stood out to you with this most recent dev stream, that like you walked away with that dev stream, like with this like at the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, I think two things, the lesser of the two being the server meshing stuff, right? Because they reconfirmed that they had moved some of their network devs off of completing the server meshing. They were fixing like caravan stuff and other more pressing issues, and so it's good to hear that server meshing, dynamic server, like all that stuff that they're working on will be complete at some point in the near future, because node sieges without that will be really rough, because in any large scale PvP, if you get more than 40-50 people in a small-ish area, the draw distance becomes 30 meters. It's terrible, and it's not fun. And so hopefully that comes online before node sieges, because that'd be rough without it. I mean, hey, I'll still be trying to test and help out and getting in there and stuff, but yeah, that'll be rough without it. So that was. Go ahead, no, please.
Just a random comment on that is something we found during the node siege testing with the draw distance. We found it felt more like 20 yards or so, but either way, like the people were disappearing, but the mounts were still there. So we'd see like a line of cats with no riders just jumping around and running around, but there were no actual like people riding them. They were just the cats.
Weird.
Yeah.
Real quick, Penumbra, the way that Steven explained it, he says freeholds and coming online equals wipe day. The way that Steven keeps specifically phrasing it, it sounds like it's just wiping the freeholds, not the entire server. So it's a freehold system wipe while they implement the new freeholds. That's the way I understood it, at least, given like if I'm taking word for word what he said, that's how I took it.
That's the way I heard it. So prior context as well with this, because they said, will there be wipes? And Steven's like, well, yeah, there's going to be wipes, and there are going to be certain systems essentially that get wiped. When we combine what he said last stream with this stream as well, I wouldn't be a big fan if characters all got wiped again. I know there are a lot of people that are like, oh, wipe it. And I know some of them are level 25, but I know a lot of people that are in favor of wipes haven't put much time into their characters right now. And so it's a little bit easier for them to say.
I'm a proponent of not caring if they wiped it tomorrow. And I was level 25 within the third or fourth day. And I've gotten like really high quality gear and things like that for myself, and I've spent like hours on it. So for me, I'm probably one of the outliers where I'm like, I've spent all this time, but I'm still fine if you just wipe it tomorrow. That's fine. I'll just do it all again anyway.
I'm a proponent for I would enjoy the time for the guild to prove how quickly we can establish it, the guild itself, and
that too,
an actual foothold somewhere, especially
if the guild system's in now.
So that, and then the artisan stuff, that was my other big takeaway from the live stream.
Big artisanship things coming.
Yes.
I'm gonna be honest, I am a not necessarily a lore junkie, but I am definitely you're in a living world kind of junkie, where the thing that stood out to me the most is no, there's not going to be cinematics or voice acting, but yes, the budget is going to be built into all of these different things for story arcs that make story arcs very robust and very unique. And I love so much that they have talked about, each server is going to be different. The choices that we make are different. I mean, look at Vyra versus Lyneth, and we don't even have the arc system up yet for stories or any of the narrative, really. And the servers are already night and day compared to each other with the player base alone. And I love that there's that emphasis on, the players are the story. The players are the ones dictating where the story goes next. And as a DM in Ashes, and in D&D and other games, like, I feel like the way Steven is running Ashes in terms of how the story is going to work feels like a DM running a campaign where they're making the players feel like they are in the world, which is the type of style of DMing that I like to do. I like to get there and try to understand your characters, any backstory that you gave me, and I will legit sit there and plot out. I will make up shit on the fly. Like, I've done this for Vertec. He was in, for those of you that have been around for us for a while, we had a D&D series that I used to DM for Call of the Nether Deep, because I like Critical Role. And Vertec had a rogue that he was playing named Silka. And I went out of my way to plan out as much as I could into his backstory and bring it into the current story as possible, because you're not just in these tabletop roleplay games, you're not just a character that suddenly existed and there's no history to you, you know? Like, yes, we may be coming to Vera for the first time, but Vera has a history. Our ancestors have a history. And so we're coming to Vera with this perspective of explorers coming to a new world. Whereas a lot of the times in my D&D campaigns, you've already lived in this world. You're how old at this point? You're what level? You're level 1, like whatever class that you chose. So there's history there. You had to have gotten there somehow. You didn't just wake up and have it, unless you're like a wizard and then you have a sugar daddy who gives you powers. But I'm just saying, there's like a history there, and your choices should matter as much as the story. And I really love that that's kind of that same idea as what they're bringing into Intrepid with Ashes of Creation and things like that, where the story is based on like what we do and what choices we make. And our story on Lyneth is going to be very different than your story on Vyra and many other Castus, other servers, etc., that pop up. But I also agree, like, even coming from a roleplay standard, if I wanted to do a choose your own adventure, which is kind of what Ashes is a giant choose your own adventure with the story arcs, I would have to anticipate every single outcome that you're going to choose and then make videos for every single outcome that you're choosing.
Easy peasy.
Takes up a lot of development time and budget and just time in general for scripting and planning if you're trying to do like voice acting or cinematics for all of these things. So I don't know. That's my big takeaway. I'm sorry, I went on a little spiel there.
How about you, Vertec? What was your takeaway?
My takeaway, honestly, and I'm gonna have an easy, simple takeaway. This is still an alpha, and there's a lot of stuff coming, and some people still don't really understand what that means, and still don't really understand how a calendar works. I'll be honest. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of stuff coming up, right? Stephen was saying there's a whole lot of things coming up in March. The March update's going to be big. We're going to have this, that, and the other. And people were, in the chat there, I was noticing that people were really upset saying, hey, so there's a lot of stuff just being pushed off to phase 3. But no, he said there's stuff coming in March. To prepare for, you know, phase 3. So it's, I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming. There's a lot of stuff that isn't in there yet. But there's still a couple months left in phase 2 there, guys. Still some time. And this is a moving train. We're only talking about a couple of the stops along the way. But there's some exciting things coming up for the March update, by the way. Yeah. I agree. There's a lot. I mean, again, sieges, rogue, possible changes to rarity, who knows what else. But also, in case you've been living under a rock or have not seen the dev stream, servers are going to be up until the 10th. They're not going down on Tuesday and Wednesday. So that is another major thing, mainly because I just kind of want to add it as a developer. I kind of understand a lot of the problems they went through. There's a lot of bugs they had to go through, and apparently apparently they had their first iteration or usage of their rollback system, which then came with its own variety of bugs that they had to figure out and squish. So there was a learning experience all around, and as a, not like an apology necessarily, but as a like, what do you call that, participation trophy of being patient and letting them work through things, they decided to keep it up until the 10th. And I think that's awesome. I mean, development in general, if you've never been a developer, is a giant game of whack-a-mole. Sometimes you finally fix one bug and this fix possibly frustrates or messes up something else over here, or you have one semicolon that you have to hunt for to find, because if you didn't put that semicolon in, it breaks the whole set of code. Things like that. And I mean, that's not even just developer stuff. Web developer stuff, because a lot of this is built, I believe, in like some of these older techs like C, and those are even more finicky than web development is. So it's hard. I remember taking C++ in school and looking at C#, and that did not look fun to me to learn. So I was like, anybody making games in those,
props to you because I don't know if I could do that. But we are struggling a little bit to decide which direction to go. We've got Thogli, who's currently streaming Ashes, and we've got Dusty Y, who is also currently streaming Ashes. Do you have a pick of your poison? Shall we go to a dwarven tavern with Thogli, or I just call it Into the Abyss with Dusty Y because Dusty's usually a variety of places in game.
I mean, I am a Dunier this go around this phase, so I think we got to go with Thogli.
Okay, very fair. I'll get that. I'll get Thogli together for that. And Vertec, time for your special spiel.
Well, as we go to run away, do you have any last words? Do you have any last words, Burns?
Ooh,
Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I love the Golden Feather as an institution in the Ashes space, and I just really like you guys as people. So thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and you put out great work. So it's fun to talk with you and be a part of this here.
Yeah, well, I agree.
We love us some Doc Burns too, so you're always welcome. Always welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yes. And I put his socials both on YouTube and Twitch. So if you're not following already, please go follow him because he makes great content.
Yes. And Chibi, did you have anything you wanted to say in the closing out? Or you already said your piece? All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for spending your time here. As always, we need to remind you that is your most valuable commodity. So the fact that you spent it here, knowing that you do not get refunds once time is spent, you do not get it back. Please know that we greatly appreciate it. Could have been doing anything with your life. You could have been out there establishing your own backyard clinic, doing who knows what to animals in your own spare time. What kind of hodgepodge would you make? Alligator ducks. Why not? But anywho, you folks have yourselves a great day. We'll catch you around next time. Bye.
Bye.